Okay, so we just finished reading about conflict on the frontier, so now we're going to look at End of the Buffalo Days. So I want us to just make a prediction about what we think this section will be about. Okay, so go ahead, and what do you think this will be about? Okay, all right, good. What do you think this will be about? So it sounds like you guys both predicted the same thing, and I would make that same prediction, that End of the Buffalo Days, that kind of is saying that, we know buffalo is an animal that used to roam the plains, and maybe there weren't so many of them anymore. So we're going to find out why. We're going to start by reading this first paragraph, and then afterwards we're going to go over kind of where we are on the objectives and do some activities. Okay, so let's go ahead and with your partner read that first paragraph on End of the Buffalo Days, and I will help you if you're struggling with a word. Yeah, that's treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek. Remember, we had talked about that on our objectives. We're going to talk more about it in a minute. Okay, so in that word, do you see another word that you might know inside of that word? Right, we know the word change, right? So what does it say in front of change? X. So go ahead and put those together. Exchange. Good. Exchange just means like a trade. You're gonna trade something. Okay, so let's first of all go over what we learned from this paragraph. Okay, what's one thing that you learned? Right, that the American Indians had to move to a reservation. Okay, so we learned that American Indians to a reservation. And what else did we learn? Yes, you're right. They had to move to the reservations where they were promised to have food and clothing and what else does it say in the book? In that last paragraph. I'm sorry, in that last line of that first paragraph. Point. Supplies to begin farming, right? Supplies to begin farming. So they did do that. Where was this land at? Where was it? Look at our vocabulary words. It's right, it's called an Indian territory. An Indian territory, good job. And where was it? Go ahead and look around where you see those big bold letters of Indian territory. Where did it say that was? Look in those parentheses. It says today. Right, good job. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do now is we learned about the American Indians having to move to a reservation. One of our objectives, if we see up here, is that students will write and retell the purpose and outcomes of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek. So did we learn about the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek? Yes. So what did we learn about that? Right, that was the agreement that helped. What did it do? Let's look at the questions that we had from earlier that we hadn't had answered yet. How is the conflict solved, and are people still fighting today? Right, the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek did solve that conflict at the time. That was the purpose of it, right? And I remember our objective was that we'll be able to write and retell the purpose and the outcomes of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek. Okay? So I want us to just remember, I'm going to give you an activity to be able to do that. But right now I just want us to remember what the purpose of that treaty was with what we just read. Let's go ahead and before we start getting into where it's actually talking about the buffalo, let's go ahead and talk about what we already know about the buffalo. Okay, what do you already know about the buffalo? Right, that they're big. The buffalo are big. And they were hunted by the American Indians. Why? Why were they hunted by them? Yeah, they were hunted for food, right? For food and for their shelter. They used, you learned in the previous unit what they used all of the parts of the buffalo for. Yeah, you're right. Use their hides for some of their clothing or for their shelter. And bones for tools, exactly. Okay. Is there anything that you are wanting to know about the end of the buffalo days? You're wanting to know what did the American Indians eat if they didn't have the buffalo? Okay. So what did they eat afterwards? Anything else? So have we learned about how there was an end to the buffalo yet? Have we learned about that? Do we know? Do we know how all of a sudden there were buffalo and then all of a sudden there weren't any? Do we know why? No, not yet, right? So maybe that could be a question. Who wants to ask that question for me in a complete sentence? I would start with a sentence stem of what caused or what made, what caused the buffalo to be gone. Good. What caused the buffalo to be gone? Great complete sentence. To be gone. Okay. All right. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and read our second paragraph with your friend, with your buddy right next to you. Go ahead and read that second paragraph. Actually, the second paragraph and the third paragraph are both really short, so I think you all will do awesome at just reading the second and the third one together, okay? Let's go ahead and do that. The OA says O, right? So what would that word say? O, Rome, right? Okay, put your thumbs up when you're done reading. Okay, good job. Okay, so what is something that we learned from our paragraphs that we just read? Right, we learned that some of the Indian chiefs not all of them signed, right? Not all signed the treaty. What was the name of that treaty? Remember, we have it in lots of places up here. We have that right here. We have it right here. So not all chiefs signed the treaty. The treaty of what? Medicine Lodge. Good job. Hey, is there anything else that we learned? Yes, we learned that around this time the buffalo started disappearing. Does it tell us why? Look back in the text and see if it tells us why. It does say that they were hunted, but does it say that they were hunted in a way that would make them become extinct? Meaning to be gone? No, let's look at those last couple of sentences. It says the buffalo were important to their way of life. They respected the buffalo even as they hunted them. Okay, so remember the buffalo had been on this land for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and then they became very, very few in a very short period of time. So they had been hunted and hunted all of these years without it causing them to go down to such low numbers, and then all of a sudden, now that what's different now? What's different now from the way it is at the time they're talking in the book now, and before the Civil War, before the settlers came. So we're going to go ahead and read on and see how that could have influenced the end of the buffalo herds. Okay, so let's go ahead and read paragraph 3. Okay. Okay, so what's something that we learned from this paragraph? Did it answer a question? Did it answer a question of what caused the buffalo to be gone or to become fewer? Yes, it does say that they left the bodies to rot. That's awful. What does it say about the number? What does it say about the number? You guys see that? It says they killed, what is that name of that number right there that it says? Thousands of buffalo. Right? It says that the Anglo buffalo hunters, now Anglo, they're just talking about the people that were not the American Indians, the settlers. They found a lot of ways to make money from the buffalo. They could get very rich from trading and selling buffalo skins, and that's really all that they used was the skins, and then they just left the bodies there because the skins were very valuable to them. So they didn't even use them for food or anything, just the skins. And once they were left there to rot, they weren't able to be used for food for anybody else. So killing off buffalo by the thousands would cause. What do you think that would cause? It would make them harder to keep large herds of buffalo. That's right. Okay, so did we answer our question? Did we answer our question of what caused the buffalo to be gone? Yes, we did, right? The settlers and the buffalo hunters from among the settlers would kill too many at a time and not even use the whole part of the buffalo for their needs. Okay, so let's go ahead and just read this last paragraph. Okay, so before you tell me what you learned, I want you to tell me if you saw or you could think of another reason why the buffalo became extinct. Why do you think it was just so that way the settlers could get rich, or was there another reason? So go ahead and read that first sentence with your partners, okay? The United States Army killed buffalo as a way of defeating the Plains Indians. Okay, let's go back and look at that word defeat. Defeat is one of our vocabulary words, to win a victory over someone. So were they still fighting even after this treaty? That was another one of our questions. Are they still fighting? Well, if they thought they needed to defeat them, then they probably thought they were still fighting. So I want you really quick, instead of us talking about what we learned, because I want you to turn to your partners and I want you to tell them why the buffalo were so important to the American Indians. Okay, and good. And I want you to think about if all of a sudden all of those reasons for why they were important, their food, their shelter, all of that just went away because there were no buffalo, what would happen to the American Indians? Go ahead and think about that and tell your partners what you think. Okay. All right, good job. So I heard some great discussions. I heard you saying that they just wouldn't be able to survive, and that's exactly what the book said, and that was exactly the reason why the United States Army killed so many buffalo, which is what it said, but you all figured that out on your own, so great job. Very good job. So let's go over our first two objectives. Our first one was students will predict the content of the subtitled sections, Conflict on the Frontier and End of Buffalo Days. Did we do that? Yes, we did. And the next one is students will write and retell the purpose and outcomes of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek by identifying the text evidence and summarizing it to their partner. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all whiteboards, all your own whiteboards, and you're going to write what you think the purpose of the treaty was, and you're going to write what the outcome of the treaty was. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you sentence stems right here. Okay, let's say the purpose of Medicine Lodge Creek was. And then the outcome, remember outcome is what ended up, what was the result? The outcome of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek was, period. Don't forget your periods at the end of your sentence. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and write those 2 sentences and complete those sentence stems by yourself. Go ahead and do that on your own. You can use your book to help you or to remind you if you need to with the past 2 sections that we just read. And I want you to just go ahead and write those sentences. Okay. And I would give 2 minutes to write those sentences. Okay, so after the 2 minutes is up, what I would like you to do is I would like you to share your, turn and tell your partners your complete sentence, okay? So for example, if you were my partner, I would turn to you and I would read my whole sentence, starting from the very beginning. I would say, the purpose of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek was to stop the fighting between the American Indians and the settlers. Okay, so I'd say that whole complete sentence together. Okay, and then your partner can share their purpose. Okay, so go ahead and pick who's going to go first and share your first sentence with your partner. Okay, now the next person. If your partner shared with you, now you share your sentence with your partner. Just the first one, the purpose of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek. Okay, now I want you to share the outcomes, your outcome sentences. So first partner, go ahead and share your sentence that starts with the outcome of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek. Okay. All right. Now, if your partner just shared with you, now you share with them the outcome of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek. Good job. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you go ahead and you pick, actually this group 1, you're gonna share you're gonna pick which person's going to share the purpose with me. And then over here, you're going to pick which partner's going to share the outcome sentence with me. So go ahead and talk about which sentence you want to share from whose paper. You're doing the purpose and you're doing the outcomes. Okay, so you go ahead and do and share with me what sentence you wrote for the purpose, okay? Okay, good job. So she just said the purpose of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek was to stop the fighting. Good job. Would everybody else say that they agree? Or would they say that they disagree? Okay, agree? Good job. Good job. I agree with her too. All right, now who wants to share about the outcomes? Okay. All right, great. So your sentence was the outcome of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek was that the Indians moved to a reservation. Right, the American Indians moved to a reservation. That was the outcome. Okay. All right. Would everybody agree or would they disagree with that? Agree? Good job. All right, so what we're going to do last is we're just going to, two more activities. We're going to compare and contrast these two types of buffalo hunters, okay? The Anglo-American buffalo hunters, which are the settlers, and the American Indian buffalo hunters, okay? So we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna take a short break, and we'll do that when we meet back up again.